Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Today I'm watering the normal pots, so I've got a feed run. Those interested, that's MSU and CalMag this time, no seaweed. Don't get seaweed every time. And literally I will stop on some plants and look at them as we go. I don't know what to do with this. The plant is not growing. There is no sign of life. This is my Dendrobium percoglossum. It's currently in bloom. The blooms are gorgeous. I don't really want to lose this, but the plant, I think, is dying personally. It's just not growing, and it's another one of these that was unsuccessfully mounted and went downhill when I moved here, as did most of the mounts, I would say, and most never made it. The transfer into pots with the change of environment and everything else that went on, they just didn't make it. So, and that may be another one to add to the list. There are some kikis on there that I will try and take off. This Dendrobium is just a mass of blooms. It's ridiculous. I've never seen, well, this one certainly hasn't done as well as that before. Just a huge circle of blooms. They're gorgeous, they're enormous. Nothing wrong with that. Doing very well. Needs a repot, but it's not going to get one until I see new growth at the base. And that's irrespective of the blooms. So if the blooms are still on there and the new growth start, then it will get repotted. There's a little bit of root activity on the surface of the pot, on the roots that are on the surface. I have to lean this up against something, otherwise it will fall over. And we've got the Brassia that's in bud. Buds are still extending. So plant drops down inside the black pot and sort of jams in there, basically. Refuses to come out. So I get the pliers on it, but yeah, this is not going to be a fantastic spike. The end of the spike has blasted the top 3 or 4 buds, leaving 5 buds still, hopefully, that will open. But these were little pieces put together to grow on. I wasn't expecting any blooms on that anyway. My epidendrum is not doing very well, but it's grown 2 new growths and it's got some blooms, so that's in the sort of not dead yet category. It's not doing very well though. Needs to be warmer. It's another one of those that's just not warm enough here. And if you think, you know, the winter months, as far as temperatures are concerned, are 4 to 5 months long. And, you know, that stops plants. It doesn't take them down necessarily in some cases, but they just stop growing. And then they take a while to get going again. And by the time they get going again, the days are getting shorter. Temperatures are starting to go down again. This is my apple blossom. This was a good plant once, but the latest growth at least has grown some roots, and hopefully the next growth will do better, but these old leaves are not up to much. And then we've got my Victoria Regina, recently repotted, and so far not showing any signs of life at the base. Hope I don't lose this. I mean, it's got a growing shoot on it that is actually growing. It is producing a new leaf. So, you know, it's not dead yet, but oh no. I thought that was a shoot at the base of the plant, when in fact it was a piece of perlite that's gone green. So not the shoot at all. And then this one with the yellowing leaves was the one in Cyclia that I came back from the orchid meeting with, which does have a new growth starting. Yeah, it turned out it wasn't a very good plant really. There's virtually no roots. But if it's got a new growth coming, hopefully that will then produce some roots and get it going again. The blooms were nice, so it's, you know, it's sort of worth persevering with. Right, so that's that shelf. This is all very well, but it's incredibly difficult to stop falling over. Obviously, if it had a nasty fall, that could possibly be the end of the growth. You know, the cane could snap. The whole thing could be totally ruined. So it's a bit of a nuisance, basically. And I use this brassiere to stop it falling, basically, which is a bit of a juggling act initially, but it works. It holds that cane where it's supposed to be. Then I can just shuffle the other plants around. Now the Paphiopedilums we've recently looked at, so I'm just going to whiz through these. Some of these might not even get watered. They might still be wet from last time. But this one certainly will. It's just a matter of going through the rest and having a look, and if they're still wet, bearing in mind there's quite a few of these haven't got roots. That one hasn't got a good root system, it's got 2 new growths and it's still wet, so just bypass them. Now, this is a recent repot, and as a consequence it will get some more water because the new bark just dries out very quickly. So it's getting a top up. Not an absolute soak, just a top up. Again, it didn't have much of a root system, but that one. This one has got roots and is quite dry, so we give that one a soak. This is the thing you don't get to do if you use a sprayer or any form of automated watering. You don't get to look at each plant. You know, I was just saying, I'm making an assessment based on each individual plant. I can't just look at the whole lot and say they need water or they don't. And that one is slightly wet, so you can have a trickle. That's that shelf done. And then the next shelf is Restrepias, so they're not in this run. They don't get this level of feed. They get a much lighter feed. If and when they get fed, they don't even get fed as often. They don't need it. And the only other one down on that shelf is the one with the pale leaves, and I know that doesn't need watering, so we don't need to go down to the next shelf. And we move over here. It's my little Mexicoa. Got some new growths on it. I wouldn't say it's doing well, but it is starting to grow. Another one taken off of a mount. It was failing on the mount, and it's showing signs that it might recover, might not. One of the last remaining Cattleyas. There aren't many. Now there's root growth going on in here. But no actual new growths. Obviously the new growth on the top has bloomed. And this has never made good roots, this plant. It's always been a poor rooter. And yet it's sort of bloomed okay. So, strange one. And these blooms have lasted well. So the plant's not in brilliant health, but we've got some root activity coming on. Hopefully there should be some new growths soon. I say two because there are actually 2 leaves on that plant, but only one of them is obvious because it's bloomed. And this is one of the antelope dendrobiums that was a silly purchase, but it's got a lovely new growth coming. So it's growing. I doubt if we'll ever see blooms on it. It's also producing a mass of roots as well. And the roots are coming out of the growth prior to the new growth. So the root activity is as a consequence of the new growth, but it's not on the new growth, it's on the previous one. So that's worth bearing in mind if it ever needs repotting again. And this is my Renanthera that is producing some new roots, but I don't know. Needs to be warmer, and I can't keep this in the manner it would like to be. I can't give it the warmth it needs. So it's never going to do well, but nonetheless it is growing. It's producing yet another new leaf, and we've got some root activity, so it's doing something. But one thing it's not doing is blooming. It probably never will. But we can only wait and see. And then there's my Vanda, which is also growing. New leaves coming. Nice bright green leaves in good condition. And again, we've got roots growing. They're not growing down in the media. The idea was, hopefully, but at least one root has extended, and the other 2 are at least there. And all I can do is make sure when I water the roots themselves get a good soak. I mean, there are actually a couple of roots in the media that we can't see. So I doubt if this is getting as much hydration as it could do with. Catch-22, you bury the roots in the media, and then in the winter time you can't water it because it will stay wet and the roots rot. It needs warmth again. So I don't think it's ever going to do well. It didn't do very well in the glass container in the bathroom, which I was hoping would work, but it didn't. So this is how it is now, and that's how it's going to stay. So it either makes it in that setup, or it doesn't make it at all. It's got choices. This is the other antelope dendrobium, the big one. This does have a new growth just starting under there. This was one of those that was in the coconut shell, not husk, shell. And we had to cut some of that off, leaving some of it behind. The idea being that the roots in the bit that was left behind didn't get disturbed and damaged, and they'll get sorted out next time it gets repotted. And new roots grow out of the gaps, so that it's got somewhere to produce the new roots. This is getting a bit of a purple tinge here, and yet this is a highlight orchid. So it's going to have to put up with it. And this is my Jenkins CI, which may or may not need watering. No, that's still wet. There's no sign of life on that. It's got swollen canes, it's got healthy leaves, but it's not growing. There's no new growth. Dendrobiums just will not come into growth at the appropriate time when they're supposed to. And that's ever since I've moved here. They just are not doing well at all. And yet they were some of my best plants at the old place. This is the small piece of Laelia anceps, nice strong new growth coming, and roots. So that will make it, that will come back to being a nice plant one day. But not this day. And that's at least 2 years away from blooming now. The old bulbs have lost their leaves. It's got one leaf on one bulb, and now a new bulb growing, and that's all there is to the plant. The older bulbs have got virtually no roots, so it hasn't got much to go on. Oof. And then this is the larger piece, and you know, when you get something like this is the previous growth. The new growth is here, so this is the previous growth, and it's losing its leaf. It shouldn't be. But it is. Where's my skizzers? So if I see a manky leaf on a plant, I never leave it. I always take it off. Take that down there. But the new growth is producing some roots, so again it will recover. This won't be quite so far away from blooming again because it's got backup bulbs. Although it hasn't got many leaves, it's got bulbs to store energy and resources, so that one won't be quite so bad, I don't think. Right, so now we'll have to start putting stuff back as we water it. There's only there's actually 3 more on this shelf. Just run out of room. So this is the other black hair one in Fundibulum. Needs a repot. Has it got any new growths? No. I've just said no, and in fact it has got a new growth. It's just starting. This one really is a black hair type. At the base, the bottom of the canes are actually black, where they're covered in thick black hair. And if you look down in there, there's a bit of stubble sticking out. That is the new growth. So this can now come up to the front of the list for a repot. Not now, but soon. I can already see some signs of new roots coming out of that area. So I've been waiting for that new growth basically, because of the associated new roots. So we can get on with that one now. The other one's on the list as well, the one with the massive blooms, but obviously I don't want to repot it when it's in that state. So, what else we got up here then? This is the other Brassia. Oh, you're not going to come out, are you? Gotcha. Yeah, again, this was pieces put in to grow on. They're growing on nicely and producing roots. Although those are aerial roots, they will go down in the media. They're strong roots. Brassias normally produce pretty good, thick, strong roots that are long. So, you know, if they appear to be aerial, the chances are they will still get down in the media. But yeah, pieces just put in there to grow on, which seems to be doing now. So. The last one on here I'm going to have trouble with. How am I going to do it? We take it down and get it out of the way and then put the other plants back. That's the only way I'm going to be able to deal with this thing on this shelf. I'm beginning to object to that being around, quite honestly. It's just a nuisance, a real nuisance. And it won't bloom. It's now on a much brighter light shelf. It grows well, but it might be one of those that just needs splitting, it just needs disturbance to sort of get it going again. And that's only a theory. I don't really know if that's true, if disturbing a plant can kick it into bloom. Seems odd that that Lindley just doesn't want to grow when it's got quite fat, healthy bulbs on it. But again, it's another one that was taken off a mount. It was failing on the mount, got taken off, and just hasn't started growing again since. Quite a few in that state. It's a shame, but it's life. You can only do what you can do. And I must admit, I've got to the point now where I don't get uptight about losing orchids. They either make it in this environment or they don't, and if they don't, then how'd they go? Those are the choices. I thought there was something wrong here. I've arranged that top shelf up there very carefully and got it all right, and the Herco needs to go on that corner, so I'll have to move them all in a minute. But let's get this monster watered first. Massive new growths, it's a massive new roots. It's doing absolutely everything except blooming. It's going to be one of these that I just pick up one day to water it and see a spike. But I don't think it's today. Others can shuffle around a bit. There's only this one to go back there. Right, so that's that shelf done. We've got the one on the floor, which is the Hancockii that had the mealybugs all over it, which I'm just checking for. I don't see any now, so it's had 2 treatments. Blooms are going over now. Again, no new growths coming from the base. I don't know how long it's been in that pot. Can't read the writing, so even if it says on there, I wouldn't know. But give it a water and a feed. Get that out of the way so that I can get to the other shelf, move that table so I can walk in there without bashing everything around. Put that back where it goes, and then shuffle these plants around. I thought that shelf looked a bit spacious. These will have to be moved together, otherwise the one with all the blooms will fall over. This one needs to go somewhere else. This one needs to come down here, I think, where we can see the blooms. That's better. And then Herco Blossom can go back up on that corner. And then we're on to these lower shelves now. And then that's this side of the room done. That's probably all I'll do. Wildcat Bobcat, not growing at all well. Could do with the new growth really. Should I say another new growth? This is a Zygo. Got a nice strong new growth on it, with roots coming out. So yeah, so that's a nice strong new growth. And it hasn't attempted to bloom, which is good because I don't want it to. New roots and get that growth to mature and produce a decent bulb. Then the next growth, if it's strong enough, will be allowed to bloom. Now these big Miltonias probably don't need watering. Oh, this one does. This is Flavescens, the one that came from Insa, but it didn't come from Insa, it came from Burnham's, but it was organised. Endearingly known as the revenge plant. Still not quite sure what it was revenge for, but it's got nice strong new growth here and here. The other two have sort of come up against the edge of the pot, but they are starting to turn upwards. Very, very few roots on this plant, but those new growths will produce roots, so it will get some roots. And they're not too distant, hopefully. And then these two I doubt will need watering. These are pieces, these were just pieces put in to grow on. This is the Spectabilis impersonator. It's just starting to get some roots on some of the new growths. So providing they progress, we should have some pieces to pot up separately in the not too distant future. That's just getting a trickle at the moment. I don't want these soaking wet all the time. I want the roots to hunt for their moisture and not be sitting in it. And then this is the other one. This was the Morelliana. And it's it's a hybrid, it's an impersonator. But the pieces in here are growing well. There's new growths all over the place. It's a mass of growth, a mass of new leaves. Is it a mass of roots? No. But it has got some, and there are more coming. So keep this one fed and watered because it's the one that's doing well. So that's the bottom shelf done. Whole shelf. This shelf that these plants are on, there's a whole shelf behind that would be difficult to reach, but you know, if necessary, could be utilised. I don't want to because it would be very difficult to get at the plants, but there is a complete shelf there with nothing on it. It's a short shelf, not a tall one. One has to go in from the top because it's too tall, otherwise it would bend the leaves. There we go. And then the shelf above are the small ones, mostly Miltonias, but not all. This is Summer Glory, Two nice new growths and still wet and not a lot of roots. That's why it's probably why it's still wet. And then this is a species Miltonia, Reginellii. Again, new growth, not many roots and still wet. This shelf's going quick, isn't it? This often happens. What is this one? This Miltonia Sunset. Two new growths, not a mass of roots but some. And my new bug spray. There's a couple of scale at the base of that bulb. As I always say, when you see it, treat it. Again, that's still wet. I suspect most of this shelf is still wet. But we will take them all out and have a look. This one, however, isn't, and it does have a new growth, and this is got no name on it, and it jams itself in this black pot. It's got a few roots, but not many, and it is now pushing up a new growth, which should produce roots. But I'm going to have to wait for this to flower to find out what it is, because I don't know. The tag has faded to nothing. There's no sign of life on that tag. I haven't got a clue what it says. And this is the other zygo, which is being silly and has a spike, so that's coming off straight away. That's what I showed you. On a tiny little new growth like this, on a plant that's not doing very good, that is not a good idea. So I will take it off. I know it's sad, but there's another new growth coming here. This growth will then push on and hopefully produce a decent bulb. It's got quite good roots on here, but it's not growing well. Sad, but that's how it has to be. Plant first. That's the, it's also still wet, so we won't be watering that. That's the hybrid with the pale colours. Last but not least, and the most difficult to get at, because it's right up in the corner, is got a nice new growth pushing on, and it is, oh, that's Oncidium Cheyenne. This growth may well bloom, in which case we get to see those blooms again. It's really strong new growth, and yet it's not producing roots. And it's semi-dry. It's one of those that certainly won't get a soaking, it will get a trickle. It hasn't dried out properly. Still quite wet in places, but it's wet in places because it hasn't got a good root system in the main. Oh, I took my first tablets this morning for the first time, and between two small spoons, 2 teaspoons, they crush really well. So what I did was I crushed both of them, there's 2 different sorts, and put them in a small glass and put some warm water on them and give them a swirl round and guzzled it. So they do crush and I can take them. One of them was 1 a day, so that one's done. The other one is 2 a day, so I'm going to split that into a sensible time. So I waited until after I'd had my breakfast, which is sort of around 6, between 6 and 7. And when I have my evening meal, it will remind me to take the other one, and then they're roughly 12 hours apart, which I thought might be a good idea. When I got my prescription, there's supposed to be 3 items and there was only 2. The other ones had to be ordered because it was requested to be chewy tablets so that I can eat them. And they will arrive next week, and they'll let me know when they arrive, so then I'll have something else to take. And whether that's 1 a day or 2 a day, I don't know yet. But we've started. I'm using up So the diet, getting rid of this, has not started, technically speaking. I'm using up some stuff that I don't want to waste, so I'm finishing off my loaf, which will finish off my spread and my marmalade. That will happen tomorrow morning, and then from then on we will switch to the diet breakfast, which will be eggs. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. Come and say hello. Oof, and then you can go out. You're going to make noises, then you need to say hello. Come and say hello to people. Bleary-eyed, eh? You just woke up. Come on then, let's get you out. Probably come straight back in because next door over the fence are putting out washing, and they tend to wave it in the air and shake it, and that catches his eye and disturbs him, so he'll probably come straight back in. Obviously he's not disturbed by loud noises because he can't hear them. Which makes a bit of a joke, me talking to him, doesn't it really? Because he can't hear a word I'm saying, even when I'm right next to him. And I'm just going to do the mounts while I'm there. So we will just get those down. There's only a few. That's all that's left. Some are new. This one is a Jenkinsii from Lynn. Now, it's not coming into growth yet, but it's a healthy plant. Unfortunately it's bare rooted, so I do have to keep up with the watering on that one. Lynn got it on a tiny little piece of bark, and rather than disturb it and damage an awful lot of the roots, because they are quite fine hair-like roots, she strapped the small piece of bark onto a bigger piece so that the roots could just grow over onto the larger piece. So it's okay. I wouldn't say it's doing well, but it's okay. And again, that should be growing now. It's nearly the end of May. Then this is an aphyllum, which is just showing some signs of growth. Another little sign of growth there. These were kikis taken off the mother plant. Another growth here. So it's sort of coming into growth at the end of May. So the chances of growing some decent sized canes on this are practically zero. Doesn't matter how well I feed it and everything, if it hasn't got enough time, it won't produce full length canes. And I mean, aphyllum canes can be up to 1 metre long. I'm not going to grow metre canes from these little shoots in the time I've got. So they will never get to full size. And this is the problem with everything starting to grow later in the year than it would naturally do. Now this is Glomeratum, which I believe is dead as a doornail. It tried to bloom and those blasted. I see no sign of life on that. I keep watering it. You never know. There was no sign of life on those aphyllum kikis until about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks. So, you know, you just sort of live in hope this might push out a new growth. Doesn't seem very substantial. The canes that are there are not plump, and there's no green on them to any extent, so they don't look alive to me. Whereas those aphyllum canes were nice and plump, so there was always hope for those. And then this is Cernua, which is a mess, quite honestly. I'm not sure it's worth keeping. I ended up with a few pieces that came off a mount and were mounted again in some new sphagnum moss to see if it would grow. And the trouble is with this one, it rests for most of the summer, but if you don't water it, it'll shrivel up and die. It's a strange cattleya. Doesn't grow in the summer months, in the growing season. It comes into growth as the summer ends, and then those growths push on and it blooms sort of December time really on the new growths, if you get any. We'll wait and see. There's certainly none there at the moment. Right, and then the other phyllum, which was effectively what was left of the mother plant when I took it off the old mount. We do have one strong new growth on here, little sign of life here, and another bit of life down here. So again, it's coming into growth now. It's a bit late in the year, it really is. And you have to bear in mind, all of these were under lights, so they had extended day lengths through the winter. From autumn, didn't do them any good at all. They certainly didn't come into growth early, which was what I was hoping, to get some decent sized canes. And then these are recently mounted kikis. These kikis came from Lynn, and this is Dendrobium Chanthaboon Sunrise, or it will be one day. These all had roots, and basically they're okay. Two of them have growing leads, this one doesn't. I think that's, oh no, it does have a new leaf, so they're all growing, so they should be okay. They should be okay. I haven't got a clue what the blooms look like. Quite honestly, I'm not fussed. I've got so few dendrobiums now, any will do. I used to have almost as many dendrobiums as all the other plants added together. And now, you know, just so few. Including a couple that I'll probably never bloom, the two antelope type. Lucky to ever get blooms on them. Still, it's worth a try. Right, I've run out of water, so that's all I'm doing today, Saturday. And it leaves the few pots on the flowering table, the Coleogenes, that's cooler shady, so's that. Won't be doing Derek's plants in there, and one shelf of assorted things like Nobiles and some Oncidium types, and a few other dendrobiums that I forget I've got because they're not in a very good state. So there we go, that's that video. Sunday chat tomorrow. If you've got any ideas, fair enough, put them in the comments. Otherwise it's going to be quite a short one, I suspect. I've got other things on my mind, I'm afraid. And yes, we'll go from there. Yeah, I mean, basically I was hoping to start coating up the shed and getting that piece of timber drilled and screwed on, but I'm reluctant to do anything that's called any form of exertion until these this medication's had a chance to settle in. And you know, it's just worrying to know that exertion could actually cause quite a serious problem. So I'm just not going to do any. Simple as that. I'll potter around, like I've been doing this morning. I'll potter around. I'm on my feet, you know. I'm moving around. It's a mild form of exercise. I'm not flaked out on the settee, sound asleep. So I am about, you know, up and about, but that's as much as I intend doing. I'm not doing anything strenuous at all, not until I get the go ahead. My appointment for Tuesday, I thought, was going to have to be in Bournemouth Hospital, and it's here in the village medical centre, so I've only got to go around the corner. That's supposed to be taking the bloods to go off for testing. I wouldn't have thought they did that sort of thing there, but well, maybe they do. I'll find out when I go. I may end up getting another appointment on top of that one, I don't know. And then my last lot of meds arrive on Tuesday, and again they arrive here in the village pharmacy. So I'm lucky that I have got a little medical centre and a pharmacy just there, just literally in the village. And if it wasn't for the problems I've got, I'd walk there. But I'm even reluctant to do that, because there is a hill to climb to get round the corner to where they are. So no, we go in the car, even though that sounds lazy. To me it makes sense. And I don't know how long this video is. I could find out, couldn't I, as it's in one piece. It's 45 minutes long, 45 minutes of waffle and clanging and watering, and see you next time.